Do you know what is one of the best books I've ever read? Or one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to? No? Well, that would be All Quiet on the Western Front, written by Eric Maria Remarque. Now, I've only just read it in the past year or so, but it was one of the most harrowing reads of my life. It was a fascinating and emotionally draining read about the innocence of youth and how war changes those that fight. How the young, with all the prospects in the world, were sent off to fight in the First World War. And usually what happens with works like this, or from my experience at least, is that it's told all through the eyes of the British or American forces. This is told from a German point of view and gives us a glimpse into the lives of the boys who fight, and it is strikingly similar to ours. And something that really struck me about the book is just how harrowing its trench warfare actually feels. And I mean, I can't imagine how frightening it was to go over the top. Another thing the story gives us is the idea of reintegrating into society after seeing bloody combat, which is a theme that has been picked up in more modern films with The Hurt Locker, for example. After the war, these young minds were changed and destroyed, which is the most heartbreaking thing about the book. Now, I may have been talking about the book a bit too long, but it's to give you an idea of my thoughts on how brilliant it is and to set you up for what I thought of the film. And I mean, needless to say, the film delivers and sometimes even succeeds its book counterpart. So, the story. After a rousing speech by a professor from their school, Paul and his friends enlist in the military to go and fight on the front. Young, budding and full of enthusiasm for fighting and providing a service for the fatherland, the horrors of war soon catch up to the boys as they find themselves in the thick of trench warfare, fearing for their lives. And the film itself is masterfully directed by Lewis Marston, and it's a brilliant watch. I spoke about Wings being one of the best watches of a film I've had. It still is, but this is a level above. It's a film that solely focuses on the horrors of trench warfare and shows no heroism for its characters. I mean, absolutely none. The film throws them into the mud and keeps them there. And I mentioned in Wings how amazing the camera work was and how stale it was in the Broadway Melody. Being from 1930, cameras were big, bulky things and movement wasn't all that possible. But they did some amazing work in this to show just what you can do. It doesn't feel like a play at all. Films from that period often had a static nature to them, as they were just plays on screen. This film has some of the best cinematography from that period I've seen. And the battle sequences are just as well choreographed. They put you in the thick of combat and don't hold back on the violence. I mean, within reason, of course. This film is rated PG after all. But whilst not outright showing blood, you do see a lot of death. And it's these moments that really stick out. And whilst these are fantastic to watch, they aren't my favourite thing about the film. And my favourite thing about the film are the moments away from combat. Especially when our main character, Paul, travels home from the front on leave. He finds that everyone has no idea what's going on the front and becomes disillusioned with life at home when he sees his old professor giving a similar speech to get more kids fighting on the front, essentially throwing themselves to their deaths. And the speeches are done without any knowledge of the horrors that wait for the boys at the front. It's the sequences where the characters talk about the futility of war that I find are the most fascinating parts of the film. And that's not to say that the battle sequences are bad. They aren't. They are fantastic. But it's the intimacy between the characters that, you know, I really, really enjoy watching. And to say this is one of the best war films I've ever seen is an understatement. This film is fantastic and might just make a push into my favourite films, which include Blade Runner, The Thin Red Line, The Shawshank Redemption, and a few others. This is so good, in fact, that it partially inspired one of the greatest filmmakers of all time to make one of the greatest war movies of all time, Steven Spielberg and Saving Private Ryan. Hi guys, thank you so much for watching this Best Picture video on All Quiet on the Western Front. And really, this was something special, and Wings was equally as something special, but this is really up there in some of the best films I've ever seen. There will be a new Best Picture video every 2 weeks, so please look out for those, and don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe, thumbs up, like, share, all that good stuff, because your support for the channel really means a lot, and it allows us to keep making reviews and these news shows that we're coming up with. And there'll be a lot more content on the way on the Cinema Savvy channel, so stick around, and thanks for watching.